we take and kill off all the animals that we're going to kill off in the morning and then in the afternoon. And said, when you get down to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all of the different pieces are hanging up in the coolers, right? This is where they are. And so what happens then is this guy down here in this part of town, he wants 100 pounds of hamburgers. The next guy wants a couple of hams to come. That's what it comes. So we said what we do is we just pack it up in trucks and it's delivered the next morning and that's the way it's gone. Right? And that's what happens. And so I did that for a month and I thought, this is not for me. I said, I'm going to work when the darkness is coming on and I'm going to bed. you know, I said, this doesn't make some good sense to me. So I'm going out and see what else I can find out there that I might be able to do. So one of the things that I used to be out going to people, like I'd into a company and I'd just go in and I'd fill out an application and then I'd be interviewed and this kind of thing. And one of the things that I met up with was the televisions were just coming into being. This is the first thing that began to happen. We never saw any TVs here in Nova Scotia, but when I got into Toronto, walking down, they would be right there on the show, you know? And I thought, that's the real thing here, that's happening here. So I went to the RCA Victor Company, and I went in, and I thought, I don't think there's anything in here that I could do. But anyway, I may as well go through and hear what they have to say. So I went in, and they said, tell us some of the things that you've done. And I said, okay, well, I can tell you some of the things that I've done. And I told them, for example, about what I did around the farm, the kinds of things I've done, what I could do with the machinery. I told them what I did around the schools and this sort of thing. And eventually, I said, one of the things that I did, I said in a little community, they was looking for somebody to paint the school, paint the church, and they wanted somebody to paint it right up to the very top. And the guy said, and you got involved with that? And I said, yes. They said, good, we want you. And I said, what am I going to do for you? He said, we have to put up antennas on the roofs. He said, if you're going to be able to have a television, you've got to have a power going up. You've got to have wires hanging those up there. You've got to put a screen on it and another wire going down the set. So I said, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I could do that. He said, you're not worried about climbing? I said, no, I can climb ladders and do this kind of thing. So that's what I did. It was really quite interesting. There was three of us in it. We had a vehicle, and we had 5 jobs per day. If we only did 4, that was fine. But so and so had bought a TV over in Cupcake. We had to go over, put up a pole, wire. We had to take it up, get it up there, and put it up, bring the wires down, put it on the TV so that, and go and do the next job, right? And that's the way it worked. So I did that for quite an interesting time. And eventually what happened was, is that after a while, if we got down to January, people were getting TVs. Everybody was getting a TV for Christmas. Then the next thing was going on. February, they were still doing that. Some people wanted 2 TVs in their house, this kind of thing. And then there were some jobs, for example, that they were putting TVs in hotels, right? And in places, for example, where there would be a pub, you know, and a TV there. So I was traveling with these guys all over Toronto, going up the roads, up above, and go down to Niagara Falls and put up some stuff down there. Go over to the border and do it like that down that, and that happened. And eventually, came to the point where I decided that they said, well, we no longer need you anymore. We just don't need you. And I said, okay, there's nothing more that I would suggest that I could do here. I said, if I was going to do something with the TV, I said the only thing I would know about it is how to turn it on and how to turn it off. The guy said, yeah, that's being honest, isn't it? And I said, yeah, that's right. I'm not a technician. So I got a job with the glue country. And this was sort of an interesting one. It was a bunch of guys that were making this aviation stuff that you could do, right? And I don't know what it was, but whenever they went and wherever they worked, they were almost half out of their mind from what they had smelled, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it was pitiful what they were doing to those guys. So I worked for that quite a while, and then it came June, and I said, well, I think I'll hit for home. So while I was away from home, they built a school in Caledonia where I could get grade 12. So I went back and took grade 12. And then I applied to Arcadia University, and I had some subjects that I got credit for, and I stayed and finished a degree in, in at Acadia. So I had a BA degree.
What about your time in the Arctic?
Hmm. So I've had a lot of interesting courses that I took, and I had some real good professors. And so then I decided then, after I finished my university there, I did a thesis and got an honors course. So I went from there, I went to the University of New Brunswick and spent some time there and took another honors course. And when I finished there, I got involved a little bit in economics and psychology and found that those two things were sort of working together. There was just no doubt about it. If you knew what was going on in economics and you knew a bit about psychology and that particular end of the thing, you could sort of decide what was going on when people would come for the interview. You know what I mean? And say, what does this person want to do? Well, that was quite interesting. So I ended up doing a master's degree there. I had to do a book there, and I got a master's of arts there. And then I went to Sussex and got a job there in the school. And my job was a guidance counselor in the school. And I was the first person in the province of New Brunswick that ever had a guidance certificate saying that I was responsible for what would be doing for guidance work for these kids. There would be some work of psychological device just being. It would be I was to work these people with this. I would build up a whole load of things of what kind of jobs out there are that the people do. What are the professional jobs? What do you have to do if you're going to do that? And this type of thing. And that was kind of interesting. So I worked with the school in New Brunswick at Sussex for 4 years. And then after that, I decided I would go to Bridgewater, and they were looking for a, a vice principal for in that school. So I went down and they interviewed me and they said, listen, we'd be very pleased to have you come here and spend a year. And I spent quite a while. And then I ended up being the principal of the school. But to become the principal of the school, I really had some supervision of prevention of that, and I took it at Dalhousie. So I took another master's course in Dalhousie, and that was a tremendously interesting course. One of the things that I had there was a brilliant man, and what he had 13 books, is what it was. He said, I want you to read all of the 13 books. He said, you pick out the one that you really like, and then you tell us why this book here and what it centers around, why it seems important, and we should be using your time for this, and other people should be using time for it as well. Well, this was an interesting one, I'll tell you. We had 13, there was 12 of us in that, and we each had 13 books. It was quite interesting. And
Taking.
mhm. So I got a master's degree in that one. And then I went back to Bridgewater and I became the vice principal there. And then when the principal retired, I took over as the principal of the school. That was interesting, really interesting. You had an opportunity to help people who really couldn't teach, and you had to explain to them that this was not where you should be, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You just can't do this. You know, you first of all, these kids have got to be in this class. They're in grade 11 or grade 12. They want to be interested in what you're doing with them. They want an opportunity to ask you questions and this kind of thing, and that's not happening here, right? Therefore, we're going to have to find something different. So I had to do a write up with these people. I went over it with them, and then we had to find a personnel that could do the kind of thing that we wanted that person to be able to do. And I found it quite fascinating. But you really can't force people to do things, but you can tell what's happening when they begin to ask you the questions of why am I doing this, right? Why am I doing this? What's it going to be doing for me? And what can I do with it? Right? It was quite fascinating. So when I think of you, I don't know what you would have to do to try to decide if you want to leave the military, or if you did want to leave the military, what would you like to be able to do that probably would have an interest that you would be quite interested with what you were doing? And it's interesting. So if it's too late now to think in terms of university, this at this point, it may well be if you do some seriously looking at it, talking with other people, some other jobs, right? You found somebody there. You mentioned geologies, right? If you went in and had an interview about if I'm interested in becoming a geologist, what am I going to be doing? Where do I go to do this? What happens here, right? Do some of that. And you could still be with the military, couldn't you? Do that. Get some time you'd have to do it, couldn't you?
Yeah,
Hmm.
potentially.
Well,
I'll find something.
one of the things right up front is would you rather work with machines or people,
Both.
or both,
Both.
right? Give me an example about both.
Well, look at Bruce's business. He works with machines and people.
Well, you take your dad right now, because the fellow had an accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of work that Bruce is doing at the present time is sort of having, I think, quite an enjoyable sort of a situation and really enjoying what he's doing.
Yeah,
Because the big building down there is having people being using it, right?
all the time.
They want to know if he can do this, and this, and I think he's got 15 people working for it,
He's
or
got a good
12,
team. I'm
12
not
or
sure.
15, and I think he's really enjoying it. And well, something like that, you end up meeting with an awful lot of interesting people, don't you, when you're doing that sort of thing?
Oh yeah.
So it'll be interesting to hear what happens that you do.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be interesting just to talk to you about that because I think that the world is going to change and it's going to continue changing and it's going to be continue changing. Even if you think in terms of that car, that's one example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Donald Trump is not going to be much use for this world to try to make it any better. I think that when I say that is that when the American people invite for a leader, they want that leader to be able to keep the people in the United States on an area that they're enjoying their work, that it's possible to do this, there's a demand on what they can do, and he has an expectation for them, right? And he has to present that and do it so that he can understand it. But if you look in terms of what goes on with he and the other grand old party people, I don't know what in the heck is going on. It's hard to know. I was really surprised that he got voted in. I just couldn't imagine how that happened. That the American people decided that, you know, and it's true. You can look at the people, the politicians, this type of thing. But I mean, there's a parameter out there that tells you about what if I do it this with this here, this is the kind of lifestyle that I'm going to have, right? This is what's going to happen.
Thank you.
I think it's worth your time to spend it. I think you'll enjoy doing it, and you have lots of time, and you're not going to put yourself in a hole and say, well, I'll still continue to look, right?
That's right.
That's it, and that's what's interesting.
Thank you, Grampy.
Well, I think that's good. And I wanted to have a chance just to sit on this old stump here and talk to you about that.
It's nice just to be here
Because I
together.
think that, for example, that you are the kind of person, the head on your shoulders, and the kind of person you are, that when you find something that has quite a bit of coverage, but when you get there, it's going to be interesting with you, and you are going to try to say, it needs a little help here, and we don't need this piece, but we do need this piece.
That's right.
And that's a challenge. And I think you'd really enjoy it.
I think so too.
So I think that's probably a good way to look at it and keep at it.
Happy early birthday too, Grampy.
What?
Happy early birthday.
Yes?
89 tomorrow.
Right. Well, this is what we looked at here. But I'd like to just show you the inside of our little place there and that other place. And I'll show you one other thing before we go. But,
Should we go inside the cabin? Let's go inside the little cabin here.
pardon?
You can look in the cabin here.
It's too bad I haven't got a light in there that I can use. Yeah, let's go in.
After you, sir.
What?
After you, sir.
Okay. Let's go in. See what we can do in here. Yeah, I've got to get a good light in here. What I was involved doing there for 2 years in the Arctic was we had to create hydrogen, and our hydrogen balloons, for example, they would be about from here to that stovepipe, and they were up about 10 feet high, and we would take and we would fill it full of hydrogen until it would lift 6 pounds of weight up. It would when this unit here with the battery in it, it became 6 pounds loose. Up it would go, right, and it went up about 1,000 feet a minute is what it went, and what it would go eventually is that it would go up about 18 miles and then it would burst. And the reason it would burst is because, boy, that's a fine looking camera, isn't it?
Yeah.
When it gets up at that point, what would happen is that it would it would it would that unit, it would go up 1,000 feet a minute, but if the wind caught it, it would blow it out, and sometimes it would be about 150 miles out. And two of us would work together. One of us would work on machines because on the way up, we could have the temperature, pressure, and humidity of the air from the surface right up at every 100 feet, less than that, 50 feet. And then what we had there is the air went through this machine, and we had to take, there was 32 of these places in Canada, and we all released our balloon at exactly the same time, Greenwich Mean Time. And so if we knew where the high pressure areas were, we knew what the low pressure areas were, and we knew, for example, which way things were going, we, for example, would pass it in to the meteorologist and he would draw up the map and say, this is what's happening. So there's another area that's sort of fascinating.
Yeah. The Arctic
Yeah?
and meteorology.
It was a lot. So, there's that hat that I was looking for. I said, there's that hat that I had. I may as well can leave it there for a little while longer. At the university, I used to throw the hammer, 16-pound weight, and I used to throw the discus, and I used to put the shot, and I like doing all of that, and I have never really stopped doing it. I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I get on the scales. I weigh exactly 155 pounds. And
It's a
that's it.
healthy weight.
Just get on the scales, 155.7, 155.4. That's the way it is. And I just keep going. And I have a workout every morning. It takes me almost an hour
That's
what
good.
I do on it. If you were interested in seeing what I was doing, if you when we went home, if you said, show me what you do on this thing, I think I'd show you what I do. And there's something there for all parts, right? Everything that you can do. And this is part of it. So anyway,
Keeps you healthy.
I used to like to go to them. I used to go and where there was hammer throwing and this type of thing, and it was quite a bit. I enjoyed that. Yeah. I got to get a light and battery and this type of thing in this place. But this little place is kind of interesting, and it's kind of a fun place. There's without a doubt about that. I shot that deer up there behind you, right there. That was kind of a nice deer that I had.
The Chelsea buck.
Yeah,
This is your first?
that was the first deer I ever shot. That one there. Henry Severance, he was the guy that I used to hunt with, right?
Yeah.
Henry Severance said, let me tell you about this. He was an engineer. He said, something I want to tell you about this. He said, if you want to get a deer, he said, all you got to be is just look like a farmer and smell like a cow. This was Henry. He said, look like a farmer and smell like a cow. He said, you will get a deer.
Henry's funny.
It was quite interesting.
He made this loon.
But there's lots of sort of interesting stuff in here. We could have come in here when it was a little lighter, that's for sure. I had an axe, a double-bitted axe, that I used to be able to split wood with, and we used to split a lot of birch about that big around, but in the wintertime, it would freeze, right? So we used to cut it like this, and then hit sideways, right? And it would come off. Well, I was doing that one day, and I went, and it come right down, And that axe went right down through my foot right there. You can still see the guard down in there, right there, and that. And the doctor said, you may be wandering on one leg for quite a period of time. But I wasn't. So anyway, when I got finished with that, Glenn right now, Murray, you see, Murray died. He was 94. Glenn right now is 90, and I'm 98. I'll be
89.
89 tomorrow. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, this sort of thing, and it's kind of interesting when you think about that. But it's kind of amazing. Glenn come down and he said, I've got an axe here I think you might be interested in. He said, this is this double axe that you put right in your foot. I said, you're
Really?
kidding. He said, well, I'll go over and show it to you right now. He said, you can have that one. So I had this lot of little things in this room here that's kind of interesting that have to do with it. Henry Severance made this for me. He was the guy that I used to hunt with and fish with. He made this little one here. Henry Severance made this one, right? This one here, this little guy. Look, he even carved this little thing, little yellow perch for on this one.
It's
Right?
beautiful.
Yeah, he did. He was a great guy. There's just no doubt about that. So anyway, there's quite a bit of stuff in here, all right enough. That book bag over there was the first book bag that I had, Murray had, and it's packed in with quite a bit of stuff in there. And the traps, I used to did some trapping on that. And right here, this here was my horse that I have that I used to ride. I don't know if you ever noticed. Can you get to see that? The horse. This is mine right there. The one that's second in.
It's hard to see with
Yeah,
the reflection.
that's it. That's me. Yeah, that was quite interesting. So Murray was like this. Murray was the kind of guy that liked horses. He liked them, but he didn't want to ride them.
No?
So he came about a year later and he said, you know, that horse, he said, needs to be ridden. He said, it is a horse that should be rode. He said, so you should ride it. And I said, he said, well, you go ahead and ride it. So I knew how to ride it, and I knew about the bridle, and I knew you turned it just by just when you moved the reins this way, you didn't have to pull hard on the bit or this way. So anyway, I used to do that. So I went home one day, and Murray came out one day, and he said, I got something for you, Lowell. I said, what's that? He said, I bought you a saddle.
Oh, no way. That's so nice of him.
Hank Snow used to have a song he used to sing on the radio. It said, I traded my, what? How did that go? I traded my saddle for a rifle. That's what he did. But anyway, the salmon that we caught was unreal. We did a lot of fishing. We caught a lot of salmon. I got shooting, and I used to shoot quite accurate about it. And not great, but I was at least somewhat great. And little buck saw that I had, and there's a lot of stuff in this room. Good picture over here of Marion, up here on the wall. And right here, that's Marion and I, that picture there. David Freeman, I think, is coming to this gathering. But Marion and I, with David Freeman. This box here was a box that I packed up all my stuff when I left up at the Arctic. And I brought this box down, and I thought it'd make a good place for my wood box.
Yeah.
So I put everything down, South Brookfield, and that's what I did. And there's quite a bit of stuff in here that's packed around in this room. Well, I think that we should get ready and pretty well be going pretty soon.
I think
Okay.
so. The sun
I
is
just want
going
to show
down.
you a couple more things. We'll bring down the things here. It's a nice little stove, and that's a cream can that we used to have right there. We used to separate the milk from the cream, And we used to have cows, and we would do that, and put that, the truck would come, and we used to get our burner right off the trucks, and it was quite interesting. Yeah, it was. But of course, I told you about the floor, didn't I, here?
Yeah.
This was the gym floor, and in Bridgewater, it was the Vikings. So I went in there one morning and I said, "What in the name of God are you guys doing here?" He said, "Look, the floor is flooded," and he said, "We're going to have to take it all up." And I said, "What are you going to do with it?" "We're going to just have to take it up and cut it out." And I said, "Well, is there any chance I could get a piece about 8 feet long and about 6 feet wide? We can get anything you want. Just bring your van, we'll put it in." So there it is.
That's good.
Okay, well, let's get out of this one and get ready because we're good to go. So, did you finish your beer?
No.
You didn't finish.
Not quite.
Is this famous new book that I bought?
Yeah, that one's yours.
That's it. Did I take the red book in? The red one I have?
I don't know.
The red one I had, this book in that. Did I leave that in the car?
I'm not sure.
I'll just have a look.
We're looking for the little red bag.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right here. The bag that we put the beans in.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. This bag is full of
I
beans.
didn't have the kind of thing I really wanted for it, so what I did was I just put it in there. I just wrapped it up in this and put it in.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to get a real thing for it. So that's good. That little unit. And this was good. This here.
We've got to put the chair back inside.
This one here is a really interesting one. You just take it like this, look. Just take it like this.
Wow.
So light, you know.
It's pretty nice.
If you have to reach up, I use that for the kind of thing we use, cutting off limbs and doing things like that, which is good.
Should we put this chair back inside?
Oh yeah, we should put this in to lock. Yeah. Okay. Just set that. Just put that chair right over there, that window over there. Bruce is a great provider.
Yeah.
He came by one day and he said, "I'm tired of you and your keys." And I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, listen." He said, "I've got all these keys and one key fits them all."
Nice.
I said, "That's good of you, Bruce. Thank you." I said, that's just great. So let's just run across the street here.
And we'll come back.
Right across the whole thing here. We'll go. Yeah.
Want me to carry it?
Yeah,
I'll carry this off.
I'll take my coat, and I'll take this one here, and I'll put that in there. If you can bring that one there.
I got it.
Gary every now and then has pictures of something that looks like a deer, and there it is behind you, right there on the bench. So anyway, it's go down. Just open this one up here for a second.
Hang on a sec. I think we're missing a cap here.